Aloha authentic.
Aloha mai, and welcome to another episode of Aloha Authentic with Kamakapili, Hawaii's only TV show that features and shares the stories of our own local artists, practitioners, and kupuna, and archives and saves their voice and their stories so we can continue on and perpetuate that knowledge and all those kauna and those hidden meanings into the future. Today we have a special guest all the way from the shores of Molokaʻi. We have Kanoelani Davis of PōMahina Designs. Mahalo for coming on the show today. But before we get into that and I get sidetracked, I want to make sure I cover my bases. So on the table we have some bowl of poi and some poke, and I'm sure for those who've been watching, you guys know what this is. But for the ones who hasn't, if we do poo-poo a little bit and eat some appetizers throughout the show, it's because the bowl of poi, for me, represents that when the bowl of poi is open on the table, no negativity is spoken, only positivity and all energy of good and positive and creation stories, which represents what the show is about listening to the stories of our artists and our practitioners and how they do their work to create positive change in today's world. So that's what that represents. I urge you to get your poi and get your poke and poo-poo along with us. Our next segment in this show is a little bit new. We're keeping it going. It's called Did You Know? That is proudly sponsored by the Native Hawaiian Hospitality Association. And today's Did You Know is talking about ehu ava, which is also known as ahu ava. Ahu ava is used as a la'au or plant medicine for multiple purposes. The seeds on the top of this plant is dried and applied on the scalp for dandruff or ukus, what we call, which is lice. The lower end of this plant, if you look at it, there's a little bit more of a whitish and a yellowish color. It's chewed and it helps remove all that mouth thrush or the white coating on your tongue. And helps to get rid of that. So if you have or are dealing with any of these issues, and instead of going to Western medicine, this might be a good alternative to stay all natural and use the plants that our ancestors in Hawaii has used, but also that was provided here by Akua. So we have that on. Did you know? Now you do. We're going to move on to our very informative discussion with Kanoe, talking about PōMahina, but also a little bit stories of Molokaʻi. So mahalo Kanoe. Before we get off topic, because I can. Just a little, what is this called? A caution note. I have a kite, and this kite sometimes flies over here, sometimes flies over here, so I gotta make sure I bring it back and it stays above me because the conversation can go all over the place. But what is PōMahina Designs?
Well, first off, mahalo for having me
Mahalo.
on Kamakapili, Aloha Authentic. I really appreciate this chance to share. So what is PōMahina Designs? Well, PōMahina Designs is it's me. It's really who I am, and what it is I'm a Native Hawaiian. I am a mother. I'm a wahine, and basically I'm a graphic designer. As far as Western culture goes, that's what I went to school for. As I've gone into graphic designs and developed what we see today as PōMahina Designs. I've come to terms that there's a lot of interconnection to our kupuna, and it's a journey. So PōMahina Designs for me is this journey and artwork that I get to share with others in the Pai'aina as well across the world, and it embodies the foundation of Hina and all the many Hina of Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. So for those who don't understand Hawaiian language, or even what your interpretation is, what is PōMahina translated to? And I know your discussion or your mana'o or thoughts about it is different. So what is PōMahina translated, and what is PōMahina to you?
Yeah, that's a hard one. For me, it's hard to really define PōMahina as one specific thing. I guess if you were to break it down and open up a dictionary, you would see Po as night or dark, and Mahina as the moon. And how you interpret that it is also a perspective within itself. But for me, PōMahina is defined as a specific space. You'll hear it in songs. You'll hear it in conversation in Olelo no Iao Hawaiian proverbs, and it's referred to as the moonlit nights. But really, it's a space and it's a time where, for me, Po is an embodiment of deep consciousness and unconsciousness. It's a place of kupuna. It's a place of the seen and the unseen, and all that it encompasses in a way of thinking, in a way of being. That's PōMahina, and it's a very special place for me. It's a place where it's undefined to everyone else, and it's so defined that it becomes who I am. And so I can't really define it in the way that people would want it to be defined as, but once you get to understand who I am, once you get to understand the artwork and why I do the things that I do, you'll soon understand what PōMahina means, and then you'll translate it, and your perspectives will become the definition of what PōMahina is.
That's deep. So what you've done, even if you don't understand what PōMahina is, at least you created that foundation that this is not just a physical art piece, that you have deep kauna or deep meaning to that. So you are a kumuhula, and you practice a lot of other traditional practices like kapa or lauhala, and you even, on Molokaʻi, you guys' lifestyle is so rugged that there's a lot of things that you have to, hunting and fishing, you do a lot of practices that share a lot of meaning to it, aside from the physicality of it.
Yeah.
How does your experiences and the teachings that you've gone through and the teachings that you do translate to your work and your designs?
How does it translate? Well, you know what? It's so hard. Again, that's another thing too. Like we keep trying to you keep trying to define something.
And we keep digging
right.
the whole time.
I have a hard time defining anything. I mean, it is what it is for me, and that's a hard part. I know people don't want to hear that. People want to have a definition. People want to have a meaning. But it's in the experiences. It's in the process. It's in being there present for it. It's in the conversations I've had with people while exchanging PōMahina. That's the richness of what PōMahina is. And I think for me, that's such an integral part of why I do PōMahina. It's the connection. It's that piece that makes this space and this realm so rich and potent. As a practitioner, I delve into everything. Hula is my foundation. I come from a line of people family members who just have a lot of great talents. I do kapa now. I just started as a student of kapa. I delve in weaving here and there, but I'm not a weaver. I fish. I come from a line of fishermen and hunters, and it's interesting. So when I go back to say what defines PōMahina as far as the foundation in regards to art that you need to hear so that it makes somebody else feel good, Hina is the driving force to PōMahina design. And Hina, coming from an island where the island's mother is Hina, Molokaʻi Hina. She was my inspiration. And we've come into a place where we forgot who she was. And so not realizing in the Pai'aina, she is a very dominant female principal. And that she actually resides all over the island and all over these different types of elements. Even as a fisherman, they go to Hina. And not many people realize that because it's such a male-dominated world. And so Hina is an important part of our balance system. And so that's the one thing that shows in this artwork. That's the one thing that intertwines as a lei into every single piece and then into my own life. And I'm a mother of 4 daughters, of girls, and as a woman who has to learn to hunt and fish to survive in a male-dominated world, how do I present that to my daughters as females as that being okay, but also that we have to honor the feminine? Mm-hmm. And so that's how that integrates.
So I know, and we've brought it up in the past, in some past episodes, that in Hawaiian mentality, you have ku and you have hina, the energy of female and femininity and gracefulness, and the energy of ku, strength, stability. So with your products and the stories that you share, to you, what is the importance and the difference of ku and hina?
Really, honestly, it's very important. But as far as if we're looking at it in a business or a model or we only do things for women or we only do things for men, that's where I like to say that we do things for both men and women, and that I can take a design that may seem feminine, put it on something that may seem masculine, and make it universal. And I like the fact that I have pieces like shoes and messenger bags and backpacks and other things that are very universal, because I don't want to just lean towards only women, and I don't want to lean only towards men. I want it to be one. Yeah.
So you do, like, I've seen, I mean, this is pretty intricate work, and the detail that you put into the stories. So let's just go with this. The mana'o and the story of this design, because I see it on this bag, on the shoes, on the bag over there. What's the mo'olelo of this design?
Okay, so, well, this just so happens to be a piece that the artwork was done for Mamo Fashion Show that we did this year. And I was a co-artist with Luffy and Tara. And so the focus for our Mamo presentation was the kumulipo. And the kumulipo, we were in Wa'elua, where we talk about the fish and the things that came from the depths and the darks of the ocean and their counterparts on land. And so these have the scales and how they started to evolve and they started to move. And in that, there was life and things that flowed from below and above so that things became one. And it was in the way that things were moving, that they were not necessarily up and down. We forget that things come from angles and things have patterns and things have, that's how we draw life. That those are the things that we believe that everything just happens, but there's just motion. There's all these things that happen at once that we don't see, we don't recognize. And so I try to do my best in embodying that. But not even just the fact that it's the artwork, it's the colors. How do those colors come across? And then even how they're placed on the products that I have.
For those who don't know what kumulipo is, what is that, kumulipo?
So kumulipo, in my understanding, is our creation chant. And there's many different interpretations of our creation chant within our culture, but this one happens to talk about how things came from Po, how they came from the depths of darkness, and how they evolved and moved.
So you brought up Mamo. Mamo is it's a fashion show, a wearable arts fashion show. So with all this knowledge, I mean, kumulipo, which is one of the oldest stories out there when it comes to Hawaiian culture, taking that knowledge and that the ike in Hawaiian from past and bringing it to today's world in today's context of fashion, how was the experience of Mamo for you? Of being able to connect that bridge, between the two?
Definitely not easy. I have studied the kumulipo chant for years and read it many times. And no matter how many times you've read it, it's not until you've actually had to do something like this to really start to understand it. And so the cool part about the pieces that we make, it creates the opportunity to talk about it. That's where the education comes. That's where not only the education to share with another, but also the education I get to experience in trying to figure out what it is. What did they mean? Taking it apart. I love taking the chants and the stories of our kupuna apart and diving into the different layers to really understand their way of thinking and not the way they were looking at things. And so that's how these things are interpreted.
The education is your basis of your company. What is and how is it important? I mean, being a mother of 4, you have a lot to share, and I'm sure that you have a lot that you want to bestow upon them. The point of education through art, how did you come about that's your, PōMahina in general, how did PōMahina come about in being that educational platform?
People love to look nice. I looked at it like how I like. For one thing, as a single mom with 4 kids, I couldn't afford the Louis Vuittons. Once upon a time when I was married and everything was great, yeah, I could, but the reality set in, I couldn't afford those things. So 1, it was affordability. 2, it was the fact that I was the type of person that I like to have something that not everybody has. That's just me. I just, and then to have artwork that was done by another Native Hawaiian is inspiring to me because that's me, And so being those things are the catalyst to why I do that is important. And I wanted people to feel special, and I wanted them to connect to the story. I wanted them to connect to the different Hina. I wanted them to feel the importance of the artwork, not because it was just something pretty, because it attracted attracted them to it, but because of how it made them feel.
How did you begin? I know there's an interesting story of how PōMahina came about.
Yeah, well, PōMahina, for one thing, I went to school for graphic designs. And I wanted to go to school because I was always told, do something you love, don't do something you're not going to love for the rest of your life. So I went to school for graphic designs, not realizing that it was a very competitive world. And not only competitive in the fact that like all these up-and-coming people are doing artwork that are amazing, but also because the programs keep changing and they're expensive. As time went on and I realized as a single mother, I was just like, okay, you need to do something you love again. And you need to show your daughters it's okay and not to be afraid of it. So I started going back into my system, my programs, and playing around with things, and it became a hobby. And I started to do this here, this there for other people. And then it became a point where I got laid off from my job. And I was like, what am I going to do? And so I said, you know what? I just have to do this. And I had great people who believed in me. That's what helped and who pushed me. And so I took the plunge and I just started producing more. I started doing more artwork. I started studying more. I started researching more, connecting to more people, and eventually it became what now is the only thing that's holding it together for me and my family. And I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, it's
So you do research for your designs.
Oh yeah.
Rather than just, I mean, that to me that's important, and I'm glad that you said that because as a kumu yourself, and then you can do research for your own personal digestion, but doing research for you to turn around and share that story with others, to continue play that teacher role, I think is super important, and I'm glad that everybody out there knows that from you. On that, and then we touched upon Mamo and how integrating past knowledge with today. As a single mother, because I know there's a lot of artists out there and women out there who want to take that role of stepping out, and become their own wahine and have that power. What message do you have for these other single wahine mothers that want to holomua?
Just don't be afraid. I think the most serious thing that you could do is change. And once you take the step to change, to see something positive and remember your worth and your positiveness, you'll realize that it opens doors to so many things. And just really believing in yourself and not being afraid. And things will happen. Things will open up. And my biggest thing that I'm trying, and it took me a long time to learn this. I've gone through a lot, and I'm a different woman today than I was 10 years ago. But really staying positive has helped me a lot. Like even in the worst negative times, positivity has helped me push through a lot, and it changed my perspectives. So the things that used to get me down, don't get me down anymore. And always being humble and helping others is a big thing. And transference of mana. And I say that because I have my bad days. And so on those bad days, instead of laying in bed, and I always have to tell myself, okay, enough pity party, because I'll have my pity party moment. I'll get up and I go, I'm going to go work. And I'm going to go create something. And I'm going to transfer that mana and put it into something good. And then it'll evolve. And as it evolves, you start to see the positivity in it. And then it'll grow. And then once it grows, it'll happen. And you just got to let it happen. Yeah.
I know that today there's a lot of enthusiastic Native Hawaiian artists. And working with, this community that is slowly it's been built, but slowly growing and growing. And everybody having their own mana, that own energy, their own input, and their own spirit. Working with other artists, how does that help you grow as an artist?
I think when you start to look at everybody as, well, there's moments where you have those good moments and then you have those really like hard moments. But if you look at every single moment as an opportunity, as a connection, as a disconnection, as a way to share something with somebody to strengthen the connection, and if you look at everything in like I said, just a positive way, I think the building and growth as individuals helps us grow together and grow. I totally forgot the question. The kite went that way.
Yeah, see, I have a kite, you have a kite. But I know that, because I was trying to touch upon that word mana, which I think well, I didn't tell you that. I was subliminally trying to put it in there. But I kind of just wanted to focus on mana because just that word itself, if you're an artist, if you're not an artist, for those who's watching this, I mean, aside from aloha, the mana that we all carry is life-changing. So, working with others, because I know, especially with collaborations with other artists, that great energy comes out of things when you work with other people, that wouldn't ever be produced by yourself. So I'm still waiting for my collaboration with PōMahina Designs to get my designs on a nice bag like this. But so going back to Molokaʻi, because we haven't had anybody on the show from Molokaʻi or who has shared about Molokaʻi. Being an artist on such a your resources are restricted. So how do you, and I know you're pretty successful for being in for 5 years or so that you've been in business. How do you use that lack of resources as a benefit for you?
I think just being the strength of a woman, like I said, it goes back to like home. Who are you as a person? If you have no choice, you will go make choices. If you can't find something, then you go find it. If I sat at home and go, I wish I could do this, or I wish I had this, and there's none of that over here. If I sat at home and did that every single day, I wouldn't get anything done. So it's a matter of a lot of time, and it's a matter of a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work. And I believe that if there's anything that I wanted to do in this world, I can do it even from the island of Molokaʻi, where the resources are slim to none. But the one greatest thing I can say as a person of Molokaʻi is that we find resources. We know how to tap into different resources. We definitely are not afraid to find resources, whether they're on island, off island, far, far away. And that's the connections and the positive interactions that we create. And I think that's such an integral part of who we are as people. So, yeah.
And tying it in with the show, Aloha Authentic, to you and through your products, well, let's start with this. What is Aloha to you?
Aloha to me, well, it's I believe it's a source of mana. I believe it's a reciprocation. I believe that it's a balance of things, and that aloha is something that we share daily, and it's not necessarily positive and it's not necessarily negative, but the fact that there's a constant exchange of that type of mana is aloha. And I think I for one, at one point misinterpreted it as being just nice and bubbly all the time. But really, it's a state of being and confidence in who we are, that we share that honesty, we share that integrity with one another, and that we extend that beyond ourselves, that aloha is an extension of who we are and the rest that we share.
Yeah. And through your products, what do you want everybody to get from PōMahina?
I want them to honor the different Hina. I want to be able to keep creating and sharing the artwork of how I see Hina, the different Hina and the different elemental Hinas and the female principles of our islands and all of our practices. I want to be able to embody that, and I want people to honor it, and I want them to be happy to connect to it and feel good about it, and find their Hina in them.
Where can people find you?
I am on Facebook most of the time. You can find me at PōMahina. Also Instagram, PōMahina Designs, and our website, www.pomahinadesigns.com.
Awesome. Well, with a few minutes left, I just want to make sure that I cover my bases with giving credit to where credit is due. For all the photography and those pictures that showed from the Mama Wearable Art Show, we just want to give a big mahalo and all the credit to amazing and fantastic photographer Kai Markel for his brilliant eye, and give mahalo for allowing us to share that with you today. We also want to thank Hawaii Culture and Retail Association for being able to sponsor the show and allow me to share her story with you in the comfort of your home. And also give a big mahalo to Native Hawaiian Hospitality Association, who is kindly enough to share the information of the different la'au or the different Hawaiian plants in Hawaii that was used traditionally for medicine, and a way to connect and make use of what Akua has given us and blessed us with today. Check out our Facebook page at Aloha Authentic, and we have our new website, www.aloha.authentic.org, where you can catch up on all past episodes. Don't want to miss any, you want to catch them all. So go check that out. If you have any ideas or any suggestions or people that you want to hear their story to, you're more than welcome, or more than I'm more than happy to welcome all of those suggestions. So email me at kamakapili@alohaauthentic.org and we can work that out and see how we can share their story. So is there anything else that you wanted to share before we finish?
No,
Pao? Good?
mahalo, mahalo.
Mahalo to you, and we're going to be checking you guys out next month at Aloha Authentic with Kamakapili. Aloha, hui hou.
The spirit of aloha through the arch with aloha.